Number 2. Restore trust at all costs. James Burke instructed the plant that made Tylenol to shut down the production line for the capsules. They even cleared store shelves of the product amid ghastly evening news stories and photos. Even though Johnson & Johnson was 100% sure that the pills had not been tampered with at the factory, they mandated that no more manufacturing or sales would be done until they could get to the bottom of what was going on. At the cost of millions of dollars, it was effectively the first recall in history. But James Burke and the leadership at the company steadfastly maintained that earning trust was far more important than revenue. TV pundits at the time had written off Tylenol as a brand forever. They said that no one would ever buy one pill of Tylenol ever again, and that Johnson & Johnson was doomed as a result of this act of terror. But internal leadership didn't listen and continued to hold true to its goal of restoring trust at any cost. Restoring trust at all costs is a very important tool we can learn from in our businesses or careers. It turns out that if you are looking at things creatively when things get tough and there is a crisis, there is a higher calling than profits or getting a promotion. A reversion to a human-first state is called for to help mediate the crisis, and there is no closer a calling to the human state than doing the right thing. How many times in your career or business have you been faced with adversity? It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And the way you react to what happened is far more important than what happened in the first place. We spend so much of our lives fighting what has happened to us both personally and in business that I am afraid we are missing the point if we want to live the principles of the creator mindset. Because creatively, it doesn't matter much what happened. All that matters is what you do now. It is far easier to point fingers and blame someone else than it is to move forward in the face of adversity. But I urge you to fight that natural position and instead acknowledge what has happened in your career or business without blaming others or looking for someone to admonish, and then move forward and chart a clear path to creativity. Number 3. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Communication is one of those things we often overlook. It's something that most of us feel we do very well, even though we don't in our career or company. Often, when things go wrong, we are inclined to shut down and wall ourselves off, cutting ourselves off from any communication in order to preserve ourselves. But the fact is that what is most needed in times like these is not only communication, but over-communication. In 1982, most communication across the world was done by telephone. This was an era before the internet or smartphones. Johnson & Johnson did what they could with what they had, the telephone. They set up a toll-free 800 number that anyone could call with questions about the Tylenol scare, and the phone kept ringing. As word was getting out that the tainted Tylenol capsules could be anywhere, folks got scared and wanted answers. Who better to give those answers than the company that made the pills? Today, there are countless ways to stay connected and communicate, and this becomes paramount when a crisis occurs. But communication today has mostly become completely devoid of human vulnerability and restoration of trust. The techniques that I teach require you to build communication with the goal of having the largest amount of information available no matter what or how bad the news is. There has to be an honest and direct value to your communication when a crisis occurs so that people can use the information reliably. And here's an important part. Make a decision themselves. When you use these techniques, you treat people with respect and allow them to make up their own minds. This is no time for cover-ups or half-truths. Instead, this is the time to get out all your available tools to reach as many people as possible. Number 4. Create innovation. Crisis can bring about one of the best times possible for creativity. If you follow the first 3 steps, something amazing will happen. you will generate creative equity in the form of innovation, making lemonade from lemons. In the worst time possible, when all hope seems lost, creativity will shed a light for forward progress. This is exactly what happened in a Tylenol case. Johnson & Johnson looked at the packaging that was tampered with and instituted new safety measures that are still used today. They asked themselves, what can we do to assure the reliability of the product once it goes out into the marketplace? The answer to that became what is now the industry standard. The glued shut box, the plastic wrap around the neck of the bottle, and the foil seal over the mouth of the bottle were all the result of creativity at work during a crisis. Today, you can't go into a store and buy a bottle of medicine that lacks these security measures. It says right on the bottle that if the seal is missing, don't buy the product. The next time you take a seal off any food or drug item, you'll know why the protection was put there in the first place. It was creativity born out of the worst possible situation, and it was creativity that continues to save countless lives. Following the 4 steps of managing crisis can seem counterintuitive at first. It may seem that the last thing you would want to do when you have uncovered a crisis in your career or company would be to allow yourself to become completely and utterly vulnerable, or seek and rebuild trust at all costs, or communicate across all available channels no matter how bad the news is, or allow these things to spur new creativity. That seems extraordinary, but when we view trust as a creative tool across all these techniques, it begins to make more and more sense. What will end up happening with these tools is that your career or business will build honest trust and humility, and therefore empathy with your brand. It will allow for healing. In this case, Johnson & Johnson was the unfortunate victim of a malicious tampering crime. That tampering could have happened to any other company, but the public was able to slowly but surely regain its trust in the brand by the actions the company took. Just 2 months after the crisis, in November 1982, Tylenol went on to become the nation's favorite pain reliever once again, showing how creativity is one of the best tools to use in a crisis.